Hello. You want to say hi, Moto? Good afternoon, good morning, and good day. She makes me up. Anyway, good morning to those of you on the West Coast. Good afternoon, good evening, and good day. You want down? Okay, down. Bye bye. Have fun. Let's do an audio check and then get this thing set up. Ooh, my frame rate is terrible. But if the audio's fine, that's fine. Okay, the audio's sounds okay. Maybe those gotcha. Check, check, 1, 2, 1, 2, check. I'm not sure. All right, let's see if the chat is working. And the chat is available. I don't know if it's working or not. Yeah, just a few things today, and then we might peruse the news for a second. But got some chores to do this afternoon with my dad, and I just got back from picking up a new car seat from Moto that Grandpa bought her. There's Anders. Good evening. Good evening. Good to see you. And let's pull up the notebook. Let's put the notebook on this screen so that way it doesn't run over this other window. And then we'll put the articles I've already picked out in this other window. Got a couple of X posts, and every one I open is going to make the computer freak out. That's fine. And from there, I'll just do those for now. Let's do a move my buttons a little bit, just a couple pixels. Share screen, and we'll start with this tweet. It's still an X post. Fix my view and sample the audio again. I did open all those windows. Ooh, I need to get some like echo treatment because like right here is a microphone, and right behind it is drywall. And then with the fan going, it's not helping, but it's hot, so I need the fan. All right, let's get started. So we talked last week about the Powerwall 3. We showed the X post about the guy who had it installed recently, and we said that we didn't know much about it. Well, now we know almost everything about it. Sawyer Merritt's putting this post up, and Tesla has officially put it out there. We've got a promotional photo, and officially they don't go on sale until 2024, but you can go ahead and get them now. And let's see. Let's start with the photos before we go. Let's go ahead and load up the other post. Huh. The I'm sharing this screen instead of being blue is bright red. I wonder if there were complaints about that. All right, so highlights include a 13.5 kilowatt hour capacity. We talked about that being the same because we were reading the plate. Solar inverter is directly integrated, 6 inputs up from 4 on the Powerwall Plus. On grid power is now 11.5 continuous, whereas the other one might have got to around 10 on surge. And now we're 11.5 kilowatts continuous. So where Elon tweeted that you might only need one, that's pretty accurate. My whole house, except for one room, the 120 loads, I've got them running on a 7.2 kilowatt continuous system. I don't remember how much it surges to. And let's see. Now flood resistant to over 2 feet. I'm not sure how flood resistant the old ones were, but we saw some of them go through some stuff. Backup power is 11.5 continuous. We just talked about that. Oh, I see. That's different. So on grid versus backup. That's interesting. They split it up. I don't know that they ever split it up like that before. But that's 64% more than before. That's substantial. And it does it say what they peak to, like the surge? System expansion available anytime. 40.5 kilowatt hours max. Addition per unit. I'm not quite sure what they're getting at here. They're saying if they're saying adding, say, Powerwall 2s, or each set of Powerball 3s can only be up to 40.5. Let's do some quick math here. My computer is hating me. Oh, no, it's just on the wrong window. 40.5 divided by 4. That's 10.125 divided by 10. 4.05. So I guess you can do string 4 of them together. You used to be able to string, I don't remember how many you could like stack, but you could do 9 in the system before. So 40.5 divided by 10 is 4.05. Oh, that's what I'm doing wrong. Not by 10, but divided by 13.5. So you can get 3 of them together now. That makes divides evenly into 3. Makes perfect sense. Da, 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 da. 287 pounds. This one was interesting. They compared it to the Powerwall Plus. It's lighter than the Powerwall Plus, but as we said last week, it's heavier than the Powerwall 2, the regular one without the solar stuff on it. As we said, it's a little bit thicker and shorter, and Tesla says it's coming out in 2024. We got these nice promotional images. There we go. On the Tesla website, they got them both up side by side. So Powerwall 2 says add battery storage to your new or existing solar system. So like if you have already have a grid tied system, or if you have microinverters, you'll want to use a Powerwall 2 is what they're suggesting, or install it on its own. Powerwall 2 is compatible with all major solar inverters. And I guess the reason they're not doing Powerwall Plus here is because they want to stop selling that one because Powerwall 3 makes that one redundant. Powerwall 3, they say, install new solar and battery on your home. Powerwall 3 features an integrated solar inverter and supports larger system sizes. And so for that one, it sounds like they want it on a new system. It says install on a new system, new solar. So then at that point, I'm still wondering if the additional 2 units would be Powerwall 2s or Powerwall 3s. I would still say 3s because the Powerwall 2 supported more than 3 at a time per system. Next photo says Powerwall specs according to Tesla. Energy capacity is 13.5 kilowatt hours. The on-grid, the backup power, 150 locked rotor amps motor start. So you might not even need a soft start depending on what you've got going on. Depending on soft start for your HVAC or whatever motors you're running during your blackout. Seamless backup transition. I don't think they ever advertised that before, and a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, I never noticed it go over." But on other people, I've watched their videos where they do the transition. You can actually see it flicker, just like my system. I've got an off-grid, another vendor system, and it when you flip it, it flickers. And this is the side of the Powerwall we didn't see last week. Looks like here is where they want you to do all your connections. And I don't know if this is the switch or if it opens up like the other one did, and that allows it to open, or not sure what's going on with that right there. All right, scalable system expansion available anytime. 40.5 max per addition per unit. I wonder, since it's not on sale yet for 2024 officially, I wonder if it's not a matter of adding Powerwall 3s or adding Powerwall 2s to it. If it's like my not aftermarket, like my other system here, where they will have Powerwall 3 battery onlys, and it can take 2 of them. That's kind of how this other device is. It's got a brain unit, and then it's got two just dumb batteries. This might be the same situation here. So then it would be however many Powerwall 3s you want for your system, and then however many batteries to plug in each of them, like extra batteries. That would be really cool. Uh, Let me get the size and weight. All right, the inverter solar to grid efficiency of 97.5%. Ooh, that is good. Uh, 6 solar inputs with maximum power point trackage, so that's MPPT. Uh, Installation, integrated inverter and system controller. I wonder if they're still discouraging off-grid use because I could see just doing this for my next setup. Just get some solar, max it out for what the Powerwall can handle, and then pop it on the house. And then whether or not I choose to go on grid or off grid would be easy with these. Uh, Flood and dust resistance meets North American safety and EMI standards, and still get your 10-year warranty just like before. And I assume it's still rated for full cycle daily, like it used to be. I guess the other thing with this would depend on the price, because if I'm more inclined for off grid, uh, it would depend on what it costs, whether it's saving any money versus going with an all-in-one inverter charger and just bulk batteries, lithium ion batteries. It's pretty. So what I suspect we'll see is I'm going to go to tesla.com/energy or /powerwall after this to see if we get anything more than those 4 pictures. Doesn't look like we will though, based on his screenshotting. Powerwall stores your energy for backup protection. So when the grid goes down, your power stays on. Home battery continues Tesla's mission and makes energy accessible to all. This might also be another thing why Tesla is trying to shut down their solar sales divisions, except for Solar Roof, and maybe even Solar Roof, depending on the market. If you can have this not just all in one, but all in one with battery included, where all they have to do is put the panels on your roof and plug them into the power wall and then commission it. Uh, why not let somebody else handle it and go on to use your resources for other things? Most homes, customers can receive whole home backup power to power their entire home during an outage and have energy independence by producing energy with solar. Customers can also reduce their reliance on the grid and save money on utility bills. Once installed, Powerwall can be monitored and managed using the Tesla app to customize system behavior and meet your energy goals. The other good thing about being able to get this through your local solar installer rather than Tesla is customer service in a manner that you might expect. Um, they will be people who are local to you. They'll communicate in a customary way rather than just through the app, and they'll be on a time frame that you might expect. Uh, Now, if you're in an area that has bad service, that probably won't be as good. But in a lot of other areas, when people compare their local service to Tesla Energy doesn't usually compare to what they're expecting. I'm not saying that necessarily is bad, but it's not what they're expecting, and this would solve that. Even more so now that Tesla Energy is like had a headcount reduction. Let's see. So it's integrated system designed to meet your needs. Can supply more power with a single unit and is designed for easy expansion. That easy expansion, they've not. I want to see if I can't get a manual for this thing and see what's going on there. Features an integrated solar inverter, allowing solar to be connected directly for high efficiency. Ah, something in my eye. Maybe it's an eyelash. I doubt it was a piece of dust. Woo. Anyway, um, integrated solar inverter, high efficiency. Powerwall 2 can be added to existing solar systems. So that's not necessarily a Powerwall 3 thing. They say that again, reiterating that Powerwall 2 is what they want in a situation like this house where there's already solar with microinverters, or if you had solar where they already paid for an inverter, why pay for another inverter, right? And it still does have an inverter on Powerwall 2, but that's just from itself to AC power, not from solar into the battery. It'll charge the battery directly off of whatever's already flowing through your house. It's an unfriendly sounding thunderstorm there. Uh, Powerwall 2 is compatible with all major inverters. So again, they're saying, hey, get a Powerwall 2 if you already have one. Customers interested in adding battery storage to their new or existing solar systems today, Powerwall 2 and Powerwall Plus can be installed with or without solar. Powerwall 2 is compatible with all major solar inverters, and Powerwall 3 will be available starting in 2024. Sign up to be the first to know when Powerwall 3 is available. I think that's the last picture there. Yep. And this is how Apple should release iPhone 5 new watch or 15 new watch. Events are for major news, not standard product evolution. Apple needs the hype to do their sales. It's part of their marketing. A single Powerwall without solar for power outages and peak usage. So you want a Powerwall too. All right, so let's go to Tesla. Spell their name right. .com/Powerwall. And this is new too. Request a callback rather than get on the waiting list with the Powerwall 3. This picture of the Powerwall 3 on the house. Telling you about Powerwall. Okay, these are Powerwall 3s now rather than Powerwall Plus. Solar energy. Use your solar energy 24/7. Prepare your home for outages, which is Stormwatch. Yeah, that was the other thing that people noticed is that the Powerwall 3, the logo is lit in a soft white. And I saw people complaining about that, like, oh, it's a theft risk, blah, 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 vandalism, etc., etc. But then when you think about it, Powerwall 2 had a large green line going down the pulsed, and but it was on edge rather than on the flat side. Well, I guess it was a flat side, but rather on the broad side. And on, I don't know with the Powerwall original if it was lit or not. It didn't appear to be in any of the videos or pictures I ever saw of it. And recharge from sunshine. And then they got a little sampling of what you can see in the app. You can monitor and optimize your energy. Yeah, I'm gonna need a price on Powerwall 3 before I decide what to do when we do another place. No exposed wires or hot vents. No exposed wires or hot vents. So what people were saying about it using the case as a heat sink, and they didn't see any vents, and now they're advertising flood resistance. They've changed the cooling strategy with this thing. And interesting, they called it hot vents. Are they saying that the Powerwall 2 got hot? I mean, I knew it would breathe, but I haven't heard anybody describe the output as hot before. All right, so order now, get updates. Then you got your specs. All right, I'll save all of that until so we have a new place. I want to see if I can't get the manual for this thing. Mm, mm, mm. Work this. Let's pull up the next tweet and then I will search for the manual. Powerwall 2 AC owner's manual, AC installation manual. Okay, that's coming from Tesla's site. They're not showing the Powerwall 3 manual yet. Powerwall Plus, Powerwall 2, and Powerwall 1 are listed on Tesla's support page. So it's just a matter of time. We'll come back when they're selling it. Let me see one more thing if anybody's who has it has just uploaded their manual. It's not going to be that much different than the Powerwall Plus. I wonder if the Powerwall 3 has the same sort of energy gateway as the other two, or if it would do the meter shoe like we talked about that came out. They're showing how quickly you could install that. All right, so the resources they have for installers only goes up to Powerwall Plus. Nothing yet. So I'll keep an eye out. If anybody else sees the manual or installer guide or anything like that for Powerwall 3, just documentation, let me know, please. All right. So Sawyer says Tesla is getting ready to take on Australia's legacy utilities in what would be a landmark move for the local grid and consumers, potentially disruptive for the incumbent industry. Tesla's plans for Australia are believed to be broadly based on its model in Texas, where it has launched Tesla Electric, and which targets consumers who have either a Powerwall, home battery, or Tesla EV, or both. Probably a lot of both is what they want to do. But Tesla Energy is going to be big even without the cars. So I can see them just going for that. Sawyer's got Greg blocked. All right, so let's ignore all their arguing there. Tesla has, we'll see what they do with it, but they did well all over the country, particularly in Texas. And what's not to say they can't translate this to another environment? So, or environment, country, I should say, another political environment. I think they'll be fine. All right, I'm going to share this tab instead. All right, a Tesla Semi has traveled 729 miles in a single day as part of the Run for Less study. Look at that beautiful use case. It did 2 deliveries during that time and charged a bit while loading and unloading. Zero emission trucking is coming. Live! What's up, my Tesla weekend? How you doing? Let me send you a little something here. This. Copy. And I need to go into a window that's not public. And it's back from the Detroit Auto Show and the battery show. That's what I'm talking about. Mark said he had a blast at the auto show, so I imagine you also did. So all I do is click this, and then I'm sending you a DM if you're interested. There we go. And then I'm going to come back to what this window was supposed to have in it. All right. And so with this Ride for Less study, let's look at these pictures real quick. This one was actually the least performant day that I saw when I found the stats. Um, they did on this particular day. They did 729 miles with 2 deliveries for 2 deliveries a day, uh, which is good. I mean, the vehicle's got a 500-mile range, so they've got restrictions on how far each driver can drive for how long. So here we've got their battery percentage and speed. Remember, speed is over here, and battery percentage is over here. So it looks like the 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock driver was getting a little bit over the California trailering speed of the towing speed of 60 miles an hour. On here, it looked like it was closer to like 70, but when I went to the raw data site, it came out to be about 65 miles an hour. Then you can see each time they charged it. And let's go down here. Bill Gates is sweating like on an airplane because he said it's physically impossible. It's not going to happen. I think something did pass them by. Tesla Semi defies the laws of physics and is passing us, if true, says Daimler. All right, so then people are arguing about speed in kilometers. And let's just go to the Run for Less study. This is on day, what day is this on? PepsiCo day 3, 484 miles that day with no deliveries. So they just drove the truck around. All right, then. Oh, this is for day 7. Day 7 is not done yet. So if I pick, oh, it still thinks it's picking day 3. So let's pick day 1. What's up? It's my Tesla weekend.
Howdy, howdy. I'm, back and had a lot of fun and learned some fascinating things.
What'd you learn?
Well, so the big thing was I wanted to talk about the battery show because I'll tell you what it was a bunch of hype. I was expecting unicorns and magic, and
this new battery will be out in 30 years.
It'll be, yeah. And it wasn't that. It wasn't that. It was guys saying we've got a nickel metal battery that has 410 watt hours per kilogram.
Wow.
And you're like, wow, that's really good. And they're like, yeah, but the cycle life is 500 instead of 1,000. You're like, oh, okay. And they're like, but your application may fit that.
Yeah.
What is your application? I'm like, well, I'm an analyst. They're like, damn it. But it was yeah. And it's all these tier 2, tier 3, all these suppliers looking to one company's there saying we've got a better way to inspect the quality of a fast moving roller of the filaments. And they had a demonstration going there, and it'll show you what it does and how they do it. And if you're having problems with how your battery foils are being made, we can quality control it. And it was
a couple of automakers to send their way.
Yeah, that's also true.
Yeah.
Let's see, go that way. Yeah, so it was great. Yeah, and the battery show, I was not able to get anyone on camera because that's not what they're there for.
They're there for engineering and sales.
They're there for engineering and sales. And most of the people that I would ask would say, we don't have anyone here that's authorized to do that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You don't
but every booth was
one on camera. You shouldn't be.
Right. But every booth was chocked to the gills with engineers. So I had questions about the hairpin motors, and I was at the DuPont booth, and DuPont is just selling the insulators. That's all we're selling here is the insulators, the things that go around it. And I was asking why they use flat wires instead of round wires. And the guy said, well, the geometry, the way it works is if you can squeeze more wires into less space, you get a smaller motor. And I said, why not make the wires even wider? And he's like, I don't know. And a lady circles behind him and goes, what was the question? I can answer that. It's you got to have a 2-to-5 ratio. If you go any wider, you're getting back towards round, and you don't want that.
Awesome. Did they you were talking about the insulators? Did any of them talk about the tape? How the tape on existing batteries is causing them to self-discharge a little bit or a lot, depending on who makes them?
Which tape? What do you mean?
The tape they used to when they were manufacturing all the batteries, cylindrical, prismatic, and pouch. There was a study that said that tape is why they're self-discharging.
So I didn't get anything I didn't know about that, so I didn't ask about that. But there was one booth I went to where they had the tray that you would expect to see underneath an electric car where you'd put your cells or your pouches or your prisms. And they had different kinds of all the different things. And then they would have, and what they were there to do was sell synthetic little jelly that goes in between for insulation and thermal management. And they had every here's our 30 different kinds of jelly that goes in between. And it was just interesting to see how specific these people get.
Yeah. But the cool thing with that though is like imagine how small this show would have been if Tesla, Nissan, and GM hadn't done this 10 years ago.
Yes. And
if it would even
so,
exist.
right. And there was a lot of companies doing like factory robotics and that kind of thing. And these companies, they say, we've got batteries for everything. It's not just cars, but we're in Detroit. It's the week of the auto show.
Exactly.
Automotive is gonna be the hook.
Yes.
And yeah, it was very interesting to see. And a lot of booths would have like AI in their name, even though, and then you'd ask them and they're like, well, it's not AI like you think of it. It's more like, it's okay. Like one company, they say, tell us the specs and we'll have a computer generate a part that is perfect for your application. And the computer will look at, and when it's done, it looks like an alien creation. It doesn't look like something a human engineer built, like a bridge, but it's all like, AI. But it's real AI where it just keeps trying permutations and strength testing it. And what they're working towards is, imagine a bracket that you would need that has incredible strength this direction, like for your suspension, but can also fold if hit from the side.
Oh, nice. So you can pass all your safety tests.
So we've got, and it's not just for cars, but for cars, you can understand the application why you could need incredible thousands of pounds of resistance this way and only hundreds this way.
Right.
So it's pretty, interesting to see what they're doing. And there was vendors for just about everything.
Yes. And Mark on the day he went to the Detroit show, he said that Tesla's showing was not what we expected. How was it for you?
Fascinating. So I, of course, went straight to the Tesla test drive section, which was the only presence they had, and found out that, and I said, so are you with Tesla? No, I'm an employee of the auto show.
Oh, wow.
We went out and bought these 3 cars, like 2 days ago, so that we could have them.
Wow.
And that's it. And now I'll give you some scoop, but don't tell anybody, everybody watching,
right.
And I've considered making this a video on my channel, but I don't want to piss off Tesla. Is that they have a PR department. They have one. Of course. It's just like they have an investor relations department. It's just not for you and me. It doesn't matter how many shares you have. You will not get your call returned. I know people with millions of dollars in Tesla stock who do not get a call back. And the same with the PR. If they put you on the list, you're on the list. And if not, they don't. So Fully Charged in Vancouver, they were supposed to have a booth, but they decided, we want you to cut us a discount. And the Fully Charged guys said, you don't get to play the poverty card when you're the biggest car company in the world by market cap and the richest car company in the world. That's ridiculous.
Yes.
You're playing, pretending you broke. Give me a break. And I imagine the same thing happened in Detroit. They said, yeah, we'll be there. And then at the last minute, no, we're not going to be there.
Oh, okay.
Because you remember just last week. Last week, you saw a semi loaded with one of every Tesla.
Right.
It was the Cybertruck and the Sexy. And where were those headed? I thought they were headed to Detroit. They were not.
Right.
Oh, wow. So bit disappointing.
And it cost the auto show a couple tens of thousands of dollars. They had to go get them cars at the last second.
I would say low tens is right, because they can flip them on Monday for what, a $5,000 loss, maybe, because they're brand new cars with
a couple miles,
300 miles on them. Yeah,
if that. Yeah.
Well, just to get them there is probably more miles than they're going to do in the loop all weekend.
Yeah, because they're indoors. Yeah. They're doing what, like a quarter mile at the most.
Very small.
And then and they were probably trucked there, and they probably bought it at the Detroit store. Well, I guess not. Yeah. They're probably illegal in Michigan, like they are here. But wherever the nearest store or gallery is.
Yeah, it used to be that you would have to pick them up out of state. I don't think that's still true. You would have to go to like Chicago to pick them up. But I think now you can pick them up in the state. You just can't buy them. You just have to go on the website. And remember, the auto show is put on by the the auto show. Find the nearest reservation; they will sell it. The auto show is put on by the Illinois Association of Auto Dealers. So I imagine
why they were doing this before.
Yes, apparently they did it once 8 years ago, but that was the last time.
Yeah, I
And
was there.
oh, were you? Nice. This
Yeah.
was my first one, so I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, they had much more process. It looked like they had like a Tesla store. Like remember they used to have the Apple store like design with all the little puck lights and that weird
Yeah,
arch. And so
the
George Blankenship
pop-up
was
kind of
there.
thing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like a moment. Yeah, George Blankenship was there and Franz was there. And George gave a speech and basically he was out after that. And then Franz, like there was no space left. So I was sitting on the floor like a school kid. My legs were crossed. And then Franz was just like in my face in an uncomfortable way. And
I've only met him
Yeah.
once, and it was a year ago at the LA or the Peterson Auto Museum grand opening,
Nice.
and it was very cool. And his kids were there, and I said, "Can I get you for an interview, even if it's only 3 questions?" And he said, "Yep, just
Nice.
get in touch, and I'll do it." And I said, "That's not a thing. You have to know I can't just get it." So he gave me his email address, and I sent a request. So
Nice.
happy anniversary. Maybe I should send a second request.
Yes. He is busy,
Yeah.
so he might have misplaced it.
It's very likely that his spam folder is all of the, I mean, it's just infinite.
Yeah. But like
That's why they keep buying more server space.
Exactly. You hit them once a year, like, hey, happy anniversary,
Yeah.
blah, blah.
Yeah.
Versus those people who get them like every day. Like it's a different.
Oh, yeah.
It's different. It'll be fun.
I don't want to
so-
be
so what did-
blocked.
that. What did you think of the Powerball 3 news that came out? Because like we saw the little photos from the guy who had his installed, and all of a sudden, I guess Tesla was like, "Oh, well, now the cat's out of the bag."
So I didn't catch much except that the inverter is in it.
Yes.
What's the deal? Tell me about it.
So the inverter's now in it. It has inputs for 6 solar inputs instead of 3, like on the Powerwall Plus.
Okay.
It weighs less than the Powerwall Plus,
Okay.
but it does weigh more than the Powerwall 2. And then what we were just looking at, it looks like they want you to get a Powerwall 2 if you already have a system. And if you don't, then they want you to get a Powerwall 3 and then hook your solar straight into them, less parts, all in one sort of thing. But we still don't know the price.
Neat.
Yeah.
Right. Even though someone has it.
Yes.
What
Unless
did
you
you
got it for the
pay?
old price. Right? And
That
NDA.
doesn't seem like something Tesla would do.
No,
They're not about the discounts.
no, they're not.
No. So they, yeah. And
Well, unless they were passing on the savings and keeping the profit margin. They do that.
Oh,
sometimes.
sure. Yeah, if their price went down. And that's the beauty. So here's something I'm going to be sharing with my viewers this week, which is there's a lot of fear. The Chinese are coming, the prices are going to come down. The legacy guys, they're going to get cheaper. And my news for you is no, they're not. The competition isn't coming. It's not going to get cheaper. And here's why.
Okay.
So if Tesla hadn't come along, you know that the Mach-E would still be selling at a higher price. You know that there would not have been a price war. Everybody wants to be selling at a higher price. And we know that Ford and GM are not yet profitable on their EVs.
Right.
And that's
why
Sandy
GM's $40,000 truck became $80,000. Well, $79,999 and 99 cents.
right. And Sandy Munro had said that before the price cuts, he had said that he believes, and he wouldn't say this on air because Munro and Associates is a client of Ford and them have a relationship.
Yeah.
He said it was his belief that Ford is profitable on a per unit basis on the Lightning, but that's when the average one was selling for 80 to 110. Right. If you're trying to sell them at 50, there's a problem. Yeah. So this week, Li Auto, LI, the Chinese brand, Li Auto, there were spy shots of their minivan, it wrapped in camo, road testing. And I looked at that and I was like, oh, I love it. I want it because I need the space.
Nobody makes a minivan yet. Yeah.
Nobody makes a minivan. Li Auto is a Chinese brand. They're not a discount Chinese brand, but they're a Chinese brand, so they should be cheap, right? What is the price of the minivan going to be in China? Forget the export markets, just in China. What's the retail?
90 US equivalent.
70, but still.
That was my first guess. I was like, nah, it sounds a little too high. Or it's a little too low.
Well, a little too low. But to export it, it would already be 90 once you've got your freight cost, your flooring cost for the time in transit, the whatever your import duties are in any given country.
Yeah.
It's 70,000 in China. So,
You gotta pay that stuff to bring it over. Yeah.
well, yes, and shipping is a
Not
cost, and
free.
yes, and then it gets the dealership, and they're going to want to mark it up.
They need to make a
So
profit. Yeah.
they need to make a profit. So that if China can't make a minivan for
So the barest
50,000,
thin of margin would be 100 grand here in the States.
yeah, if China can't make a $50,000 minivan, that tells me no one can. That tells me that when Tesla says 25,000, these guys have got to be terrified. When Tesla's selling Model 3s for under
Like 30
40
and change.
with
Yeah.
with a 18% margin, my goodness, they
They reframe it. They're like, oh, well, they're not making 19% margin anymore. They're down to 18.
right. They're down to
Trying negate the fact-
16.8
Right.
that they're
Trying to
that they're
get the fact that it's
profitable at all.
and it's the cheapest one out there.
It's
Wow.
so insane. So the cars, no, it's still costly and complicated. Now there are some R&D costs that are being done now that won't have to be done again. You will get to it took what 130 years to make an optimized gas engine. It won't take
They're still not
130 years, and they're still not they're still not there. They're still eking out a little bit more. It will not take 130 years to get the perfect battery, a 99% good battery. They'll still spend money, but they won't have to. They'll leave it to the guys who want to sell you the patent, and if it's worth it, they'll buy it. And if it's not, they won't. So
Right. Well, there's
battery
also
research.
multiple applications, because it's not just auto here. Because like I can only use a V8 in cars and trucks. I can use a lithium ion battery in
anything, yeah. Car batteries, yeah. If the chemistry is the same from big to small, no matter how much some fans of EOS Energy want to say otherwise, those guys are in a
What are they
cult.
saying?
They're saying the EOS battery discharges much slower than a lithium ion. Instead of being able to discharge the entire megapack in 2 hours, theirs is like 10 to 12 hours. And they say, but for the grid, that's better. Well,
It can work for the grid, yeah. I don't
yeah,
know about better, but
no,
it
it
can work.
right. It can absolutely work for the grid, but not better.
Right.
Because with lithium ion, you can discharge in 2 hours or 10 hours. And if
Yeah.
you've got peak demand, you need to be able to
Get it all
apply
out there.
power, get it all out there. And they say, well, right, but lithium ion doesn't like to be discharged slowly. What are you talking about? That's not a thing. That's not a thing. Put your car at the airport and watch the battery slowly discharge over the next month because you're using Sentry mode, and you'll see it is happy to be discharged at whatever rate you feel is appropriate. But these are the same people who say that the Plaid has inadequate braking because, look at how light the brakes are compared to, this other car. When we did Plaid Day in Michigan, we had, I want to say 3 S's and an X out there. We only had 1.7 miles of road, and we would get up to 125 to 135 and back down to 0 without using the brakes.
All in regen. Oh, you got 3 motors though.
All
It's
in-
not like the
Yeah.
motors like ours.
Yeah, you've got, so I don't know how much, I mean, if you want to go from 200 miles an hour to 0 in a hot hurry, yeah, you're going to want those ceramic brakes, those carbon
Right.
ceramic brakes,
And they're for sale.
and they're for sale. But
If you need them.
for normal Plaid applications, if such a thing exists, the brakes were adequate.
Yeah. And
I
then,
assume we didn't use them.
right. And then just this week they upgrade. Well, they probably did it earlier, but this week they started advertising it that they've upgraded the brakes, the standard brakes on the Plaid, not just ceramics, but even better than they were before, which they were obviously safe enough because they were allowed to sell them and get their certificate.
Yeah. Well, in the US, you self-certify.
Yeah, but don't they pick some out just to make sure that you're not
Only
one?
for things like EPA ratings, but for safety and all that, no. It's the Wild West out here.
Yeah. Except for the ones that you see on or IHS or similar, where they do their own pull them out of the market.
Yes, and those are secondary, tests. If you fail wildly, you're not in trouble. You just
but the consumers will see that.
The consumer will see it. So I will give you some scoop if you like on the strike, because I love you, Kacey, and you deserve it. The other day I put out a patron only video because the information was too valuable, but I have to protect my sources. And I was afraid that if I put it on my channel, even being vague about where I got the information, it could be not vague enough. So I put out the video, I shared it with my sources, and they helped me understand what I can say for a public video, which I will make soon. Here's the behind the scenes on the strike. GM, Ford, and Chrysler, for the affected plants, have not canceled their parts orders. They've just changed the delivery dates. So all last week, we saw them say, oh, the stuff we need on the 18th, move it to the 19th. And then the next day they go, actually make it the 20th.
22nd.
Make it the 22nd. Order still stands, but I don't need it. The trucks can't cross the line. You can't get those parts into the factory. So if they ship them, they're going to have to store it either on a truck, which is costly, or warehouse it, which is also costly. So they're going to need, but they haven't canceled the orders. So there is some confidence at the manufacturers that this may end quickly. And
so they're willing to make a deal in some way.
The demands are unreasonable and unrealistic and would instantly bankrupt all the. You want 32 hours of work for 40 hours of pay and a 40% pay raise. They're not going to start working 32 hours. They'll still work 60, 70 hours a week because of that sweet overtime. But they'll get 8 free hours and their OT will kick in at 32 instead of 40. So this would be like a 70% raise. That's insane.
Yeah.
And they want back the traditional pensions that nobody offers anymore because they're too expensive. And they want a union presence in the other factories, in all the EV factories. The what? Yeah. So that last one, you're insane. The last one, you want a presence in there? We're not even going to offer that because your members will vote for themselves. These new factories, we're not giving you a foothold. The 32. So what they're going to get is a pay raise. That's what they're going to get. And the fact that they targeted this narrowly made it so that in all of Michigan, only one plant is affected. Do you know how many auto plants there are in Michigan? Probably 70. Yeah. Probably. This is like 10% of the workforce, and they didn't target the most profitable cars. So the F-150 is still chugging along. They're bread and butter, but the Bronco plant is on hold. Meanwhile, I found the lots again. There's a stockpile of Broncos. They saw this coming. Yeah. They overproduced for a little bit. So if this lasts even a week, there will be no impact at the dealerships. They will still have all the inventory they need. And even if one model disappears for a little while or is in short supply, they've still got all the other models. So what Ford did is then laid off the people who make the engines that go into those cars. Oh, wow. Because if they make the engines, I can't ship them into the factory. Guess what? You guys are laid off. 600 people out of work. And that's got to be frustrating. And the union's like, oh, now you've declared war. My friend, this is a war. That's why you're being so strategic.
Exactly.
And Ford took out a $5 billion loan to cover any shortfalls during this. So this has been strategized from day one. Why they insist on going into extra innings to get it resolved rather than just get a new contract, it's silly. But
this is what your dollars are going for. This is what your dues are paying for. We got you this raise. But that you're saying 70%. There's some government folks that I've worked with, and they got an 11% cost of living adjustment, and that is like unheard of. But that's only because the prices of everything have been unheard of this past year.
Theirs are tied to inflation. They weren't getting a cost of living increase. They're asking for that, and I think that's absolutely reasonable. Fair, otherwise, on a bad year, you're now making less money. Exactly. But when I say 70%, it's because, if you're talking a 20, 30% raise, but you also get basically 8 hours for free, and your overtime kicks in 8 hours earlier. That's
like a vacation day every week, paid.
It is. Yes. Oh, well, more than that, because Friday you're getting time and a half already. So it ends up being
you're still working
a vacation day. Yeah,
Vacation
because you're
day and
getting a
time and a half.
vacation
Wow.
day and a half every week. And that's if they get a deal
That's a
like
princess
that.
gig.
Oh, if they get a deal like that, the
Yeah, it's not going to be good for the
manufacturers
company.
would the manufacturers would start planning on how to shut them down and only
Yeah.
build in non-union factories.
Right.
So there you go, everybody. There's
It's
your
all eat
inside
robots.
scoop. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I've
This is
got
going to be exciting.
I've got 3 different sources at 3 different part suppliers. And so I can't see all the parts, but I can see select parts, and multiply that by 3, you start getting a pretty complete picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is kind of part of what when Elon's saying, "Oh, I don't mind if you unionize, but not that one." That's kind of what he's talking about right there.
Yeah. The UAW is, and they've done bad by their members. The 2008 contract was a bad contract. The 2019 contract, or I guess that was 2009, but the 2019 contract was also not great. And Chrysler was able to stretch it out long enough that the members were just, it was something like, I don't remember, 163 days or something insane. And the Chrysler members were ready to sign anything at the end of it. So, yeah.
So that's why they're making a big show of this one, even though they got what is it?
It's the largest strike ever. No, it's the broadest strike ever.
Broadest, yes, exactly.
3 manufacturers, 1% of plant. So Ford, 1 plant on strike. How many assembly plants does Ford have in the world? Do you know?
Wait, more than that.
60.
16.
60.
Oh,
60.
Yeah. So they're taking out 1 out of it, so 59 left.
So it takes you 60 plants to build 6 million cars. That's 100,000 cars a plant.
Right. I mean, when you look at Giga Shanghai.
That's exactly the thing. They're at 1 million comfortably and still stretching.
Yeah. And then one of the ones we were going to discuss today was, let me change screens here because we already know the Tesla Semi is good. Let's share this tab instead. They've got 3 plants that actually build cars. 4 now? Yeah, 4 plants that actually build cars now. And they're
5 if you count Nevada.
Nevada makes cars?
Makes the Semi. It's in the picture.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, somebody's in that picture there. So they've got 5 that build anything that they can drive, and 3 of them have just opened essentially.
Yeah, 2 of them are still very much ramping.
Yeah, and then Shanghai, and they've got space and support, and then Fremont. You don't call it a gigafactory, but it is, and they're still finding ways to cut a corner here and put a tent there, and they're still making that thing hum like a good piece of machinery.
And they're adding a new building for an additional large press for a large casting machine, and they didn't call it the Gigafactory because they didn't need to, but the NUMMI plant, which is what it was the largest factory in the US, among the largest factories in the world. There are bigger manufacturing complexes, the Wolfsburg plant. Yeah. Well, yes. But if you count all of Boeing's facilities in the Seattle area and all the buildings, but this was the largest individual, like the Wolfsburg plant for Volkswagen is much bigger than even Giga Berlin or Giga Texas, but it's a bunch of it's a complex.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But
and this, of course, is a simplex.
Yeah. Ford is doing 6 million with 60 factories, and they did this with basically 3.
Right. If Tesla had 60 factories, they would make 75% of all cars in the world.
Wow. Bennett says largest factory in the U.S. and you still couldn't fit GM and Toyota in there. Ego in there.
Ego.
At the same time.
Yes. So Bennett, I've got to take issue with that. It is Mary led. And
Mary
that
led.
matters.
From behind.
Yes, from so far behind that she was basically.
We're not making enough batteries, so let's add 16 more models. That's going to make it better.
So they announced the all new electric Acadia. It's going to be magical and wonderful and coming out in a year or two. So I went up to the GM booth and said, "Hey, can I? It matters, Bennett." And I said, "Can I get someone on camera to talk about the new Acadia?" And they said, "What do you want to ask?" And I said, "I basically just want a recap of that presentation, but on camera. You know, price, specs, timing, where it will be built." And they said, "Boy, so let me check because I'm looking around and the marketing department's gone. So let me find out." It was 4:00 on press day. They're open for another 3 hours. The marketing department went home. They went home. They just went home. Yeah. It doesn't inspire confidence.
No.
Imagine. I mean,
they were showing us all out together, the press and the engineers. Wow.
But were you there because I didn't get to their booth until 4 because I was.
Yeah, we had a couple of days where we were there until the very end, and
they were there.
That's not good.
It does not inspire confidence. Press day. You left early on press day. You took a half day.
You can't do a half day on press day. You can do a half day on show day.
What do you do for a living again? Oh, it's press. Okay, so I guess. But it just tells me they're not as serious as they should be.
Right, because you've got all the people who are going to interface with your customers for free. And you're not there to interface with them because now they can run whatever story they want. Like, oh, yeah, I heard that electric doesn't work in the snow. Nobody there to tell them otherwise.
Right. Except that the only reason you would do that is if the real story is worse than the average speculation.
Yeah.
But
we couldn't reach GM for comment, so this is what we heard.
Yeah. Well, then the most you can do is just regurgitate their press release.
Right.
And
exactly.
And I'm not here for that.
No.
I did get to do the test ride in the Hummer and the Lyric.
Think of that.
The Hummer was actually impressive. I mean, I would never buy one. And I look at it and say, who is this car for? And I can't come up with an answer. And sales reflect that because it's a big ego machine, but it's electric. And those two things often are not the same buyer, especially at that price. But it was still impressive. You're on a polished concrete floor, so it gets a little squirrely when they do the 0 to 60 with big knobby tires. But the driver did not let up, and it got back to straight. And, it just kind of felt a little uncomfortable, but the traction control worked. It was fast. It was impressive. It felt remarkably nimble for 8,800 pounds. And then we did the Cadillac Lyric, and I was excited. I was like, this is the 500 horsepower. It's a car instead of a... And I even left my head off the headrest so I could get the full... My head did not hit the headrest.
Oh. And dual motor too, right?
Dual motor. And my buddy was in the back, and he'd been a Ford engineer, and he'd worked on the Mach-E project. And we got out of it, and both of us were like, what was that? That was terrible. And it feels very old fashioned inside, but Cadillac buyers tend to skew older. But again, we got out and looked at it and said, who is this car for? Right. It's $100,000.
If you're aiming it at your
Chevy.
core, and we keep talking about how Cadillac and Lincoln and Buick need to move their core to people who are still going to be alive in a little while. So if you market it to the people who are already set in their ways, they don't want that car. So who is it for?
No. Who is it for? Who is it for? And again, look at the sales. The answer is no one. Now, the BMW, I know who that's for. That's for people who want a luxury car, but don't want to buy a Tesla. There are people who just won't. There are people who are BMW loyalists, but it's...
I'm so sure that the same buyer, it's just that the buyer easily gets pulled over to something plaid instead. Yeah, because they're actually doing what they want.
I would say the Cadillac is a little bit more comfortable than a plaid.
Yeah,
but barely.
I mean, it better be.
And the plaid, but comfortable is, couches are comfortable. I don't want to drive a couch, and forget the plaid. Just go long range. It's still a vastly better car with vastly better specs. I mean, the
lower price.
3 and Y have comparable performance, and they're a third of the price, half the price. depending on your options.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, I
And almost
always,
everything is
that's my
standard on
first
Tesla.
question.
Yeah,
That's
it's not option groups.
the options are color, wheel size, tow
And range.
hitch, I guess.
And,
And
if you
well,
want
yes.
speed.
And what color would you like?
Yeah.
And in terms of demand levers, if Tesla offered new colors, the demand would increase again.
Yeah. I mean, because we see people who change them out every year or every other year. Like, imagine if you gave them something that wasn't the same car again. Like, they might change it down to a year.
There are people who have swapped out their S's because they wanted ultra red.
Yeah.
And I think, have you heard of wraps? But okay.
Right. And that's just one demand lever. Like, they've still got so much more that they could do. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Somebody said in their video that they saw 2 Ys in this picture. I saw 1 Y, 1 X, 1 Cybertruck, and 3 3s and a semi.
The whole bottom row looks like 3s to me. I can't. No. I see what you mean. Right. I see what you mean. The blue one definitely looks like
That's a Y.
That's a Y. The
Yeah.
white one in front of it is a 3. The red one
S.
is the S. The black one is a 3.
With the arrow wheels, yeah. And then this one's got arrow wheels on it too.
And the white one in front of it is the X, right? Yeah.
This only one with the handles in the middle. And the only one with no handles, but it's got its own shape anyway.
Yeah. I am just so excited for the Cybertruck.
Me too.
I don't know
Do you
if
think it's going to be before the end of the month, or?
Oh no, I will tell you off. I will send you a DM right now with the date.
All right.
Because
yes. So before you send it, I am thinking it'll be here by Halloween is what I had to say for the party. But my official is it'll be there. Normal people can start to get it by Christmas, by the Christmas update.
Okay. So the PR department reached out to a VIP and said, here's the date to be in Texas, and I can't tell you why. And that's the date that I just sent you. And when I told that date to the guys at Fully Charged, they said Robert Llewellyn got the same kind of call from the European PR division saying, be in Oslo on this date. We can't tell you why. And they said, is it the Model 3 refresh?
Wow.
Is it the Highland? And they said, we can't tell you. And they said, Robert really hates to fly. If it's a flamethrower, he's never coming back.
A flamethrower. You flew me out here for a flamethrower.
Yeah. And they said, he needs to be in Oslo on these dates. So, yeah, that was...
Remind him to get there.
Yeah.
I like
so
it.
I've been privately sharing this date. When you get it, it is third-hand information. But it is safe to say that your estimate is very good. From the outside looking in, you did good work.
Thank you.
And they could change it, but I think, but I think we will know by the end of this month if that is the firm date that I sent you.
Okay.
So
let's see. Oh, this one is nice. Let me make sure that my screen doesn't. Okay, cool. What is this monstrosity? Why does it look like that?
Isn't it beautiful?
Yes.
Because it's ultra red. I don't know why
red.
though. But why?
There's something about it. I mean, let's look at the plate that says what number it is. Like, why? What?
Oh, is it a milestone?
Those are ultra red. Okay, so it's not 3D. It's 50,000. This is the 50,000th supercharger.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh, I see.
Yeah,
I see. Well, good.
I think everything is ultra red. There's like no different colors on it other than that screw and the light up Tesla logo.
Yeah. 50,000. Not bad.
Yeah. And this
I asked the Roseville. Yeah.
Yeah. In Roseville.
I talked to the Northwest Regional guy in charge of new superchargers. I don't know what you'd call him. And I said, are they only made in, he confirmed they're only made in Buffalo.
Okay.
Apart from
they're from China now. I'm like, that doesn't sound right.
They are made in China for China.
Yeah.
They're yes. And those might be sold in Europe. I said, do we ever get Chinese ones? And he said, never, not once, because we don't use the same electrical system as them.
Right.
So it's not even inside. It's probably different hardware. And I said, what hardware? He goes, I don't know. I've never seen one. So,
The
and
converters and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, it's just different stuff. But
Also,
globally,
like on the
they're
back it says don't
the
use this
most
side.
reliable. The what?
On the back of this one, where it says 250, it says don't use this side on the back, like that too.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
you heard it
because
here
then
first.
you pull up and yeah,
Right.
you pull up and this jackass on the other side's using it.
Exactly. I would
They
accept it
need
if they were
more.
a faulty trailer or something.
They need more in Colorado. Uh, I had a 23-hour layover on my way back,
Yeah.
so I got to meet some fans out there, and we went to a charger, and it was full. And he said, "No problem. Let's go to the one across the street," and it was full. And then
Uh-oh.
one spot opened up, and we took it. And then 3 cars lined up waiting. And I was like, boy, because remember, Colorado's got that juicy $5,000 EV state incentive that
Yes.
brings your Model 3 down to what, 27, 25?
728.
Yeah,
It's nice.
it's nice. I'm
They're
very
opening what?
jealous.
Two a day in the US, so they'll get there.
Of course. And the beauty is in 2-3 years, it'll be less of a concern because there'll be more options. And the new players in the charging space are, Electrify America is a compliance run. That's all it was. They had to install a minimum number of handles, and they did. No one
That way
told
they
us
have
they
two
had to work.
you-
Maybe that, you know what? Maybe because no one said there was no requirement that they actually work, and a good thing because they don't. But you've got companies like FreeWire who have a pretty remarkable, clever system that they're selling to a variety of actual places. There's a company in Canada called On the Run. It's a convenience store chain. They also own gas stations, but they're not affiliated with one particular brand. They just buy up smaller chains of gas stations. They have 33
nice
locations now. Yeah. They have 33 locations now with chargers, and they're adding more all the time because we don't make money on gas. We get you in with energy and we sell you the convenience store.
Right. And who's better for energy than somebody's going to be there for 5 to 30 minutes?
Now, you know what it costs to rewire for a supercharger to bring 900 volts in from the street could be cost prohibitive and time prohibitive. So what FreeWire does is every one of their freestanding chargers has a giant battery in it that trickle charges. And when you pull up, you fast charge.
Nice.
Now, in an application like a supercharger, that wouldn't work because it runs all day. There is no gap a lot of the time. But for anyone who's got any kind of downtime in between drivers, the battery's loading back up. So when you get there, you get the full speed. And they didn't
like
have to
medium
spend
something like that. Where
a
they
what?
just would never see that. Yeah. And
Right.
just be full.
How many chargers? Exactly. You've been to a lot of places where there's 10 open stalls.
All day long.
So all day long. Right. He said on holiday weekends, we're a little concerned with what's going to happen, but then they just become, level
Slow
2s kind of.
Yeah.
The slow chargers. It'll pull as much as it can, but for 99% of the time, more than that, because it's probably only 2 days, 3 days a year that you would have a higher demand, and not even all day. These are a solution that's a third of the price.
Right. And if it's in a small town, now you've also got grid services you can sell back because you can help stabilize the grid. You can sell excess power, and you can use it to power the business if they cut you.
I hope that that's something they add. I haven't seen that they're doing that yet, but as soon as that gets started, it's going to go. It's going to be a thing. And having power everywhere. Yeah. Having little repositories of power everywhere. When there's a disaster and we need to get bottled water in a hurry, imagine if every home just had a dispenser at it, just with like 500 bottles of water in everyone's house. That'd be so wasteful. Right. But I actually use them. They're just part of what I have. It would be, emergency management would be so easy.
Exactly. Let's see, a derated EA station that was dropped to 11 kilowatts is essentially level 2 at that point as well. 11. That's
wow.
Whoa.
I
My
haven't
car
heard about that.
seen it once at home.
Wow. Right. Buddy I was talking to has a
Go ahead.
60 amp circuit for his car.
Nice. Mine's on 100.
That,
Because
wow.
we
That's
originally going to buy the dual charger for our Model S, but then when it was time to actually do the retrofit, there was it was the end of free charging for life, the end of free internet for life. I'm like, here, take this money as my order fee, and we just bought the Model X instead.
there you go. There you
Yeah.
go.
So
Oh, much fun.
we're talking about 2 superchargers a day, all from US, so you don't got to worry about any of the fear mongering about China.
Hmm.
And everybody else who's not EA, they were talking about Honda, GM, a bunch of others. They were talking about starting their own thing. Have they gotten further than just making a name for this thing?
No.
Saying that it will have neck.
No. Well, that was the problem is they made the announcement before Ford started the next tsunami.
Yeah.
So now I think the whole program may be up in the air.
Oh,
But I
yeah,
hope
'cause
they
everybody's
still do it.
Listen.
Yeah, I hope they still do it because if they have someone in charge of planning where all of them go, it's going to be better. Now we're
Right.
not competing to all be on the same corner. Wouldn't it be
Right.
nice if instead of that one corner having a Shell, an Arco, and a BP,
Right.
if they were working together because those are not big money makers.
No.
It's well, I saw guys, Tesla's going to be the next BP because they've got so many locations. Right.
We
But
want that.
it only cost me $30 to charge the
Yeah.
whole way. And what are they making? $3? $8?
Exactly.
What if they made the whole 30? That's still not a lot of money.
No.
Yeah.
But like if they could do either bring that business to somebody else who's already in hospitality, or if they could get more of those, like the Kettlemans, like the one that's coming out in Hollywood, like the ones that are destinations.
Flagships. Yeah.
Yeah, flagships, yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
we can't get
what I
somewhere
want to
else.
see, exactly, put a canopy everywhere.
Yeah.
What I want to see is level 2s at movie theaters and malls.
Yes. Yeah.
Somewhere where I don't have to rush back out in the middle of the first act to
Exactly.
unplug.
Yeah. And that we're already getting closer to that with the new Gen 3 combo charger, because it doesn't matter what you drive. They've got the ability to control the billing. They can share the charge, and now you just park your EV. It doesn't matter whose EV it is, and then it'll work. And
What's
like,
interesting,
go ahead.
one of my viewers was at a supercharger and he found a technician was out there installing the Magic Dock, and apparently they are continuing to roll out the Magic Dock.
Yeah.
So I'm a little surprised by that. I don't know why they're still doing it if everyone's switching, but I guess to serve more people.
Either serve more people or contractual obligations, or why let these things rot in a warehouse if we've got them on hand?
Well, why tear up perfectly good pavement just to lay more pavement? But that's what Tesla does.
That is what they do. So with that one though, I'm wondering now, everybody's agreement, even Honda at first, they did 2 announcements. Their first one was, well, if GM moves us, we've moved. And then everybody realized that, well, your car may have the port, but that doesn't mean you're authorized to supercharge. And within a week, Honda and Acura came out and said, all right, we're part of the supercharger coalition. But it wasn't like a happy, cheerful, it was like a, by 2025, and if you read the thing, it was the same thing everybody else says. 2024 adapters, 2025, you get the port native. I'm thinking, because of the way that these automakers work, they might be talking about model years. So it could be as early as June of next year that we could see the native port.
And that's what I'm hoping. I'm not confident that's the case because
Tesla talks in calendar years.
Right. And legacy companies are very slow to implement changes of that scale.
Right.
And 2 to 3 years is a normal product cycle for something new. You remember Sandy Munro, who did the teardown of the 3-in-Y and many other cars, said, when I was at Ford, we were lucky to get 3 changes through in a model year. And Tesla typically does more than 3 in a week.
Exactly.
I interviewed a gentleman who worked at the Nevada factory, and I said, is it true that they actually listen to your input on how to make things better? He said, oh no, it's bigger than that. They demand our input. And if
Oh.
we don't give them input, they say, what? Do you think this place is perfect? Because it isn't. What do we need to do better?
Right.
And
Hey,
they'll have,
this week.
yeah. What?
Oh, you're perfect, huh? Do you remember when you took 8 seconds to get that done instead of 2?
Right. Well, but he said one time he took a Friday off. He leaves on Thursday. He comes back on Monday and he gets a trouble ticket for line 26 or something. And he goes, "Hey, Bob, what is line 26?" He goes, "Oh, it's the new thing they built over the weekend. Somebody
you were
came
out.
up with an idea on Friday and now it's running." Like,
And needs
it's
attention.
yeah, and he would fix like the conveyors and whatnot.
Yeah.
But and that's how they worked. They had one example was the power wall covers. We're having a problem because Reno has sand in the air, and it was getting into when they would put the cover on it. So the first solution was throw some industrial grease in it; it'll be fine. Well, when the volatiles evaporate, now you've got this sandpaper paste in there. That's worse. So they grabbed the engineers from upstairs, brought them down to the line, and everyone talked until they found a solution. And 45 minutes later, they're back into production with the fixes. And he said, at my old job, that would have been 2 months and $1 million of consultants.
Nice. Well, we saw that live with Nikola. They had their outside party building the batteries, and then allegedly they were making faulty batteries, and then all of a sudden they were now the in-house battery company, and then allegedly they were still put into the trucks, and now we've had 4 truck fires.
They're on their third CEO in 18 months.
Yeah.
We've always known they were in trouble, but it's becoming a
From-
lot harder to ignore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Bennett
again,
said,
for them to fix that, other than them pretending it didn't exist, now like they're into that same cycle, consultants and months, and versus boom, it's fixed.
Well, and they've got a lot of structural problems with the company, and the cost cutting bought them time, but at what price? And they're just not selling units. In the meantime, Peterbilt has EV trucks on the road. Cascadia has BYD has yard haulers at all the ports. BYD has electric buses in dozens of cities. They've got, I think, 6 or 8 factories around the world that make electric buses, and they're quality. They're competent buses. Volvo's got electric semis already on the road. Tesla's got theirs. So Nikola's first mover advantage was squandered.
Yes.
And
badly. Not even just a little bit.
Right. They announced we're going to go all in on hydrogen. Wow. Okay. Well, why? You know what? Me too. Except I'm going to do cold fusion, so mine's better.
Exactly. Yeah, because now yours isn't like a danger. It's just awesome.
And it just like their competency in hydrogen, it's imaginary.
Exactly. Oh man.
Nikola took the Elon thing too far and decided the best sales are no sales.
The best part is no part, guys. You got to listen to the whole phase.
The best truck is no truck. We went too far.
Oh man. So Sawyer here is showing us the 10th V4 supercharger is now in Spain. So we're seeing these all over Europe now. I'm wondering why we don't see them in the US yet. And my speculation is that it has to do with Cybertruck and the fact that the semi-truck is still using MCS2 instead of either MCS3 or NACS. And I'm thinking that once that is resolved, then we'll see them here in the States.
So I haven't heard much about it. I want to say somebody suggested that maybe it's because they are using V3 or 3-phase instead or something like that.
Yeah.
It may even have to do with the cycle rate because Europe is on 50 hertz and we're on 60. So I'm not sure. I did catch Bennett's joke, and it is quality. Quality. Hey, gravity is the law. If they can run on gravity, that's a good system. So I don't know why V4 is taking so long, but And I've seen people say, well, what they should do is go back to all those V1 and 2 chargers and tear them out and put in the 3s. And I say, nah, just build them across the street.
Right.
So we
Now
got
you
more
go,
choices.
hey, the V4 is full. At least I can still get somewhere. I can go to the V1.
If my e-Golf needs juice, it can't take 250.
Yeah, you got all the bolts over there using up on. They can even take V1.
Yeah. Yeah. They can use V.5.
Right. They can't even take the original V1 from 2012 because those are 90 kilowatts and they do 50.
Well, they can. You can always down regulate, but
oh yeah, you can down
wouldn't
it, but
need to.
Right, they don't even need the original.
Yeah, putting them on a 350 would be just an overkill. It's a bit
oh
overkill.
Man, to Electrify America station to check out my my adapter to make sure that that my CHAdeMO still worked and that the CCS was working correctly. You know, that way I wasn't using it, finding out for the first time it didn't work, like something was wrong with the installation. And there was a bolt on the 350, and there was a Porsche that had to go down to the 150. He needed the 350 to get his full rating.
Well, I'm going to extend the benefit of the doubt and say that maybe when he showed up, that was the open stall.
Yeah,
but it wasn't. It
probably
wasn't. Although the EA station in my town is busy because we're 2 hours south of Seattle, an hour north of Portland, and this is a stop. So our supercharger gets good use, and our Electrify America, I think it's Electrify America. Yeah, it's green. It's only got maybe 6 or 8 stalls, but they're always in use.
Do you think that we'll see the on-unit payment terminals on the V4s when they get here, or
they're supposed to, right? You're supposed for if it's well, right, but for the I thought that was one of the requirements for
the federal money.
For the federal money, but definitely some of the states have put that in. I think Washington is one of the states where they said it has to have on terminal payment. Okay. And what a hassle! But
but it's better than
it's
proposed, where you have like this centralized big like gas station looking thing.
So dumb.
So you're going to need a mat dock and a screen, at least the capability to take both of those, to be able to just put one frame out everywhere.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Are there more topics we need to cover? I can hang out a bit longer.
Yeah, sure. Let's see what else we got here.
And also in the chat, if you're watching, I would love to know, where are you watching from? Lordstown, best sales or no sales? That's right.
They sold what, 30, and then they went out of business promptly.
It's unfortunate. It was a good-looking truck. I was really hopeful. There are some people who say, I only love Tesla. I only want them, or I only love one brand and I want everyone else to fail. And I do not feel that way. No. I don't want to see the unions and the big three go under. I want to see everyone succeed. There's 80 million sales available in the world. You know, let's keep competition healthy.
Because the more competition, the better it is for everyone, even the people who are competing.
Yes. There is a limit to that. There's about 150 EV companies in China, and there is not room for 150 EV companies in China. But they'll weed themselves out.
They will merge or whatever. All right. So we looked at the V4 supercharger.
I can still hear you, by the way. I gotta close my door and adjust my light, and I'll be right back. But keep talking.
Cool. All right. So what we see here, Marcos has sent us a picture of that same 50,000th supercharger, but it's charging a release candidate Cybertruck. Look at that! It fills the space, and even on this medium height suspension setting, you can't see the supercharger anymore past the Cybertruck. The only time you have that happen with any of the other models that are currently on sale is if they have their trunks open, and that's incredible.
Mm-hmm. And is the handle long enough? Is always the question.
Right. Everyone
you can see he is back all the way up.
Yeah, if he had a trailer hitch on, it would be almost touching the sign and the post. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a picture I saw in the last couple of days of a new station that had opened where all of them were pull through. And that's a benefit not only to Cybertrucks and Lightnings with trailers, but to anyone who has a port in a non-Tesla location, anywhere other than the rear fender. So that would be
And
nice.
I've seen a couple of trailers that are coming up that that they can charge on either CCS or if they've already been on the NACS or at least accepted the Supercharger Coalition, then it'd be nice you could plug in the car and the trailer.
Yeah. And I hope to see more of that.
Yes.
And especially from all the other brands. If you're EA, make that your differentiating factor if you want to grow. I love that they had the the audacity to try and sell Electrify America after doing such a horrific job of building it in the first place.
Right.
Ain't nobody going to buy that.
No, not at full price anyway.
Not at full price.
So Ray says that this Tesla owner claims she experienced brake malfunction. This is in China, saying that her foot was firmly on the brake pedal and the car still crept forward, slightly rear and slightly rear-ended the front vehicle until someone watched the clip and noticed something not right. Tell me what you see after looking through this this video clip real quick. All right, so the light's green and they come to a stop. And now, what's not right here?
Oh, that car is moving backwards.
Yes. They're not moving. And this lady who was bought into the FUD in China about how Teslas are always brake failing and blah, blah. This is why they had to come up and like, not seppuku, but they had to, they had to fall on the sword and apologize because they were lying on Tesla. And the Chinese government apparently doesn't allow that sort of communication. And so they had to publicly apologize in addition to whatever the court said to do. And
wow.
Even though that's
Do you think they were lying or stupid?
This person?
Yes.
This person said they were a very good driver. So
everyone says they're a good driver. I say I'm a good driver. Yeah.
So I think that that this person, if they did figure it out before, that they wanted to save face. And so they said, no, you got a Tesla. So you didn't hear all that news 3 months ago about them failing to brake and blah, blah, blah. And then the Tesla owner was just so surprised and shocked that they accepted it, which is, so it's a double-pronged danger on the lies here. And but if you look at those side cameras, thankfully somebody else was looking and saved this person the liability because they would have paid out on that.
Yeah.
Thinking they did something wrong. All right, so look at that Cybertruck.
That's the beauty of having cameras.
Yeah. All right, so we've got a quick look at Tesla app 4.25. In it, we can now see that there are now models loaded up for the new Tesla Model 3, aka Highland. And they've added support for your wall connector. If you have a Gen 3 wall connector and you wanted to say when it can start and stop charging, and you can make a delay, like so that way if you have a lot of them in one installation and you have like the power goes out and comes back, you don't want 50 cars to start charging at once. That could hurt your power grid, right? So you can have a randomized delay so that just like when you, like if you had a server with a lot of hard drives, they don't spin up all at the same time. And then they get going to speed, right? Same thing with these cars, especially if you're on an older grid. They can't take that hit. And those were the big ones. Another thing that came out, not just in this app update, but in the car update, there were updates for service mode. Not that I advocate going in there and doing stuff if you don't know what you're doing. So if you do know what you're doing, I'll just mention that. If you don't know what you're doing, look, but don't
touch it. Yeah. Maybe even don't look. Just watch someone else's YouTube video.
Exactly. All right. So then we've got, this was the final story I picked out ahead of time. We've got Gigacasting 2.0. This is coming from Autoblog. Tesla looks to diecast nearly the entire underbody in one piece. And they're looking at this for Tesla Model Next and Tesla Robotaxi. This could be huge.
Yes, it could. But Reuters has a very bad reputation when it comes to the accuracy of their Tesla stories. Remember, Reuters reported uncritically the rumor that Tesla was going to have a gigafactory in Mexico City and fly the cars out by air, which is so stupid on its face that whoever wrote that should be fired along with the editor that approved it, because that
Right.
is, but it's out after clickbait. So here's
Yeah.
my problem with
Okay.
casting the whole thing in one piece
Yeah.
is the bigger the casting, the greater the margin for error.
Yeah.
You don't want to go bigger than you have to, and that would eliminate all the benefits of the structural battery pack. You're right back to having redundant structure. So why
Yeah.
would you do that? Now
So
you could uh, cast the B pillars. That
yeah.
might be a good use of castings. You could make the castings go higher into the structure if you've got a larger machine.
Yeah.
But I just don't see the benefit of doing the whole car in one shot.
The way I read it, I don't know if they had different versions of it or anything, but the way I read it is they're still going to use the GigaCast battery on the new car, if this is true. And then this would just be the wings, and like you said, going up into the B pillars, and basically instead of having the three pieces, it would basically be the whole center of the car minus the
Right.
battery would come out, and then you've got your front and the back and the battery. So it's like Tesla showed us at the investor day where they got the four stations.
Right.
If it's accurate, but they went into how hard it is and the kind of technologies that Tesla is investigating to do this. Like, so they might not even do this, but they're looking into it.
Sure.
And then the other thing they mentioned is that currently the only way to do this is in metal, and Tesla's talking about sand 3D printing, and it's all pretty cool the way they can do it for a fraction of the cost, if true.
Sure.
I'm gonna put the article in the chat, that way you guys can read it later. But the other thing that they suggested is that even using the metal situation, like if Tesla just did it the way everybody else did it, and we know they don't do stuff the way everybody else does, you're looking at about $6 million per model. That sounds like something they can afford.
For the machine?
For the process to get the mold just right.
Right. That
Yeah.
seems quite reasonable.
Yeah.
And so there's no castings on the S and X, and it's because the volume's too low. If you're going to make
Something I found
10,
out
20,
in another tweet that was interesting to me. They were showing all the places that have in the Gigafactories that have castings and what type, and so all the Model Ys are rear cast, one piece.
yes,
And then
yes.
they pointed out that S and X are front cast in two pieces. So I'm wondering if they took the two-piece machine and just put in Model S and X molds, so they didn't throw it away. And when we
Because
look
I
at,
hadn't.
yeah, because when you look at like the teardowns that Sandy's done, like of the Plaid and stuff, they are cast, but it's not a single piece cast in the rear and the front. It's the corners. So that would be a very Tesla solution right there. Rather than throw the machine away, it's just
Right.
change the mold that goes in it.
I will have to look for that, because I was under the impression that they were still completely stamped and not cast at all
Look at my tweet and
for the new S and X.
Yeah,
Sure.
The other thing that chart showed was that no Model Y other than Giga Texas has a cast front. They're all still like Model 3, just in pieces. So
Right.
that was
Just
that was
stamped.
why I was thinking. Yeah, that's why I was thinking that it was
And
pretty cool. Go ahead.
Yeah. Did you see Sandy taking a sledgehammer to the castings and to? It's great. I knew I get these comments from absolute clowns, the kinds of people who I worry might drown on a day with a light drizzle if they look up at the wrong angle. But these people are. But I didn't know they would also troll Sandy's comments,
Sandy,
because Sandy's got a lifetime of experience with auto manufacturing, and they were well, if you damage the casting, then it will destroy. Then the car will have to be thrown out. And what he's saying is, if that amount of damage happens, ain't no car coming back.
Right, and that's what I've always been saying. Is like if it passes the crush rails, they're going to tumble your car, no matter who they are.
Yes, yes.
If you
So
get hit in the
Troy is
side,
saying,
you want the car fixed, it's not going to track straight.
oh gosh. So Troy's saying that it's a two-piece front and casting. Troy's information is not always accurate.
Okay.
I know he for a long time was considered the gold standard.
I mean, he's been good, but he's made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, he's made a lot of egregious mistakes. I've reached out to him and offered to have him on the show, but he doesn't really do interviews. And I've offered to share with him some of my secret sauce that I don't publicly make known, and he was not interested. But that's fine.
Each their own, I suppose.
Yeah.
But if this is true, it does kind of make sense that they would reuse that machine, and then
For
it
sure.
also makes sense that only Giga Texas and Berlin would have a completely GigaCast Model Y.
Yes. Because, yeah.
I found some of the comments to be interesting. Like he's asking why isn't Tesla more aggressive, and Troy says maybe it's because changes are difficult, but it didn't show here. But one of the parts of the thread is they maybe because Hydra can only make so many machines so fast because they've got five.
Yeah.
What's started? So they got 5 GigaCasts in Giga Shanghai just for making rears of Model Y.
Yeah. And you saw the pictures of the 90 kiloton, or 90 kiloton press. It's the size of a large house.
Yes.
And to go bigger, I've heard rumors of people wanting to get to 120.
Yeah, they were saying in
would
that
make
article
it
160 if they were to just for this little middle frame section, they would need to do 160 kilotons.
that would be quite difficult.
Right.
So I'm looking at a picture from Teslarati of
Yeah.
and it looks like there is big chunks of casting.
Nice.
So yeah, I'll pop that in the chat
Go
if
ahead, share
anyone
screen.
wants to. Oh no, I'll just do this.
Okay.
It's in the chat. If you want to share it, you can.
Sure.
I'm always careful to share my, because I've got a 4K
Oh yeah,
monitor.
you do one monitor. That's fine.
Yeah, you guys don't need to see all my porn.
No. You just what I do is I do share screen and then I pick the,
No,
the browser window.
Brian, it's very interesting. No, but anyway.
Sometimes my kids are
You've already seen the comments that I post on your live streams
do.
to know me well enough
Yeah.
to exercise.
Where do I
Gosh.
find the post that you just put?
Oh, I put it. Oh no, I put it in the YouTube chat. You might need to switch from top chat to all chat.
Oh, they filtered you?
Maybe.
And why don't they have me in all chat? Or did you hit enter?
It's entered. I'll pop I'll pop it in your Twitter instead. See if
Okay.
Get it there instead. Oh,
Sent a link.
because that looks to me absolutely cast.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so it's coming up on screen in just a second. Share screen. This browser window. Yeah, they match. Share. You can tell I've run into mistakes before. So Tesla Model S's plaid packaging symphony shows the need for a flagship design update. I think they're going to cancel S and X if they make any other changes, except for like bragging rights. I don't see them
changes. Yeah, changes are expensive. You need flagship products, but Cybertruck and Roadster will be the flagship products.
Yeah.
And I think they're just going to ride it out until it gets stale to a point where they have to make a decision. I was hoping that the S would be more Roadster inspired.
Yes.
I think the lack of substantial exterior update, it was a mistake.
Yeah.
And I think the sales confirm that thesis for both models.
Right. Well, I mean, they were out of production for a year and it didn't even really make a difference.
Yeah.
So I think that other than like stuff to make it cheaper, I think the first safety test it fails or the first like something that needs to change and they need to re-architect the car rather than redo that, they're just going to cancel the car. Both of them.
I think so. I think the only changes you're going to see, the only big changes you're going to see is as battery chemistry improves, you might get a little more punch, a little more range, but nothing big and nothing imminent.
Or if it's something they can get essentially for free from working on one of the other models, Cybertruck, Model 3, semi-truck.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you've seen when I toured Monroe and Associates a few months back, Corey showed me, oh, look, here's the controller for the Model 3. You see it says Model 3. Here's a controller for the Model Y. You'll see it says Model 3. Here's a controller for the Plaid. You'll see it says Model 3.
And they just plop them on.
Does it work or not? Great, we'll use it.
Yeah. And they do still give you a little something extra, like you get more RAM and you get a graphics card, but that's essentially free to them because they're already using graphics cards in the not really Dojo because it's not Dojo, but the pre-Dojo, and the RAM. They probably got a package deal on more RAM, so let's give it to the Model S since we only got this much extra. But
Who knows?
The minute they don't sell enough, or it doesn't become profitable, or they have to re-architect that thing. I mean, I don't want to see it go. I started with S, and I drive an X now, but Cybertruck 3Y, that's enough for them.
I had a gentleman ask me at Fully Charged last week, why I, you have a Tesla channel, but you don't drive a Tesla. And I said, the real reason was marketing. I don't think I'd have the same traction with my Nissan Quest weekend, but Fully Charged was great. It was the most famous I've ever been. I went up to the Hertz booth and asked if they could give me some info on camera. And she's like, well, I really can't. I'm from local, not corporate. Gotcha. And over the course, but I can answer questions, just not on camera. And over the course of the next 10 minutes, 2 people stopped me to say they loved the show. So she said, actually, I can probably answer general questions.
Nice.
But I did get an interview.
She changed a little bit, yeah.
Changed a little bit.
Speaking of Hertz, have you seen the about how they now let you enroll your app for the duration of your rental?
Oh.
Yeah, the car has to be on the latest software, but that's easy enough to do. Give it Wi-Fi, and your phone is key. Your settings, if you have a car that can put settings in the cloud, so your seat, mirrors, radio stations, all that, move to this car, and then like about 30 seconds after you return the car, that's gone from your app. It's just poof, like you sold it.
Wow, it's about time. I was hoping that they would start giving some consideration to the rental app, not just for Hertz, but for Turo and for all the other rental companies. Yeah. It's an application. I don't want to do it for 5,000 cars.
No,
but we're between Turo and Hertz. We've got to be at 150 to 300,000 units.
Yeah.
So let's give them some tools.
Yeah, and I think the way you access it once you're on that software update is, I think on the key screen it pops up a QR code that you scan with your Tesla app, and then boom, it's your car for the duration of your rental.
I saw a guy who, and I don't remember who it was, one of the bigger, it might have been Dirty Tesla or somebody, recently bought a car. And when he bought it, he put his phone in and he goes, all my settings the song resumed.
Wow.
In the one I
love that.
And they have incredible software competency at Tesla, obviously.
Yeah.
So. Awesome. And for the people saying that Tesla doesn't pay enough, here's the fun thing. There's an employee stock purchase program. And each quarter, you are able to purchase stock. So let's say it's March 31st, and you're going to buy some stock. Let's say you're going to buy $1,000. That's going to get you, what price do you pay? You pay the lowest price from the previous quarter. What was the low in Q1 of this year?
Nice.
So 115?
I wonder if sometimes when Elon loses his filter, it might be just to keep the employee plan nice.
So you might lose. So you might get in Q1 was when we had the big dip. So you might have paid $115 a share. So you might have got 9-10 shares for your $1,000. Tesla kicks in 15% on top of that. So let's say one more share. You got 11 shares for about $1,000. And today it's worth, $270 a share. So we're talking $3,000.
Yeah.
So that's an extra $2,000 you got
on day one,
free. Every quarter you get to do that.
Yeah,
you get the lowest price.
Purchase. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. You get the lowest price from the last quarter, and then Tesla chips in 15% on top. And pretty soon you own a non-zero percent of the company. And think of all the people who are participating in this. Plus you get, your stock grant every year. There are millionaire janitors at Tesla. There are service center people who answer the phone who are millionaires. And I will tell you, the only millionaires at GM who work anywhere but in the C-suite are people who've been there 40 years.
Right.
And worked 60 hours a week and never spent the money because they didn't have any time to.
Right. I mean, we hear all the time stories of people who've been at Tesla 10 years, 5 years. Why did you retire? You're at your prime. Well, I mean, how much more money do I need? I'm a millionaire.
I'm running out of toys to purchase.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So this was, like I said, it was going to be a shorter show. Anybody got anything before we sign up?
So what you're saying is you're a liar.
It is a short
because this is a pretty long. Is it really?
Yeah.
Good gravy, man.
We covered what 10 topics, and we got out before 5 o'clock.
So my
where can they find
flight,
you,
my flight, I had to get to the airport to leave Detroit. It was a 5:15 flight, so I had to take
Yeah.
the 3 o'clock shuttle. So I had to set my alarm for 2:45 a.m.,
Yeah.
which
Wow.
I, my wife wasn't even in bed yet because that's 11:45 p.m. on the West Coast.
Nice.
So I got up at 11:45 p.m. to go to the airport. So I have had a few days.
Detroit is Eastern time for some reason. I forgot about that.
For some reason. Do you want to know the reason?
What's that?
Detroit it's only Detroit that's really in the Eastern time zone. They stretched it because 100 years ago, they wanted to stay on the New York time zone for the sake of industry. It's just easier if we're on the same, time zone. Yeah. Feel free to ask me all kinds of goofy questions like that. I've got so many absurd ideas stuck in my head. Yeah. Anybody in the chat got anything? Where can they find me? They can find me on YouTube, My Tesla Weekend. They can find me on Twitter at 4K Podcast. But really, just all I ask is that you find me.
Indeed. And it's great content too. So one more Detroit factoid. It's north of Canada. So if you're coming from Canada, you have to travel north. Depending on which entrance you use, you got to travel north to enter Detroit.
And another fun thing you've heard how bad Michigan roads are, but do you know why? They said, well, it's because the winters are so bad.
That's what they claim. I was following a truck that disappeared in front of me because it fell into a pothole, and I was like, thank goodness it was him.
Wow. Thank goodness. Michigan. So the road limit for weight is 80,000 pounds combined for your truck and trailer and cargo. In Michigan, it's 155,000.
Whoa! And they still build it for 80.
Probably. It seems like it. Yeah. So that will tear up the roads. If you go to Google and type in Michigan cement truck, you'll see that their cement trucks are very different than ours because they're built for the higher weight limits, and they're and that tears up the roads because it was a state built around industry. Yeah. They need to move. We got to move steel. We got to move concrete, and it ends up, So they have higher weight limits.
Point out which ones are right, which ones are wrong. Share screen. Michigan cement truck. Share. Like this one? The red thing? Whoa, that's a monster.
Yeah, they're all, but all of those. The yellow one, the second one there looks like one of them because you'll see you end up with a cab at both ends, one for driving and one for pouring.
Wow.
Because they're so big, and
it's not actual cement rather than concrete.
But you know what? That's probably a 155,000 pound load. That second one there, that orange one, or the orange one next to it that you saw.
Yeah. This one?
Yeah, these are. Oh yeah. So this white and blue on the second row, third over.
Yeah.
No, down below the second row. That one. Look at how many wheels that has.
That 4 drive wheels.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is consequential to your roadways.
Yeah.
That's what I do. That's the big thing on my channel, folks. If you don't know, is I get out of the studio and I talk to the people, and I had an interview with the guy who designed the thermal management system for the Mach-E in 2018, and it was hello from Arizona. It was these are people I get to meet and talk to and hopefully learn a thing or two to share with you guys. So it's a lot of fun.
And we do appreciate the effort. All right. So I want to thank all of our channel members and patrons for the monetary support. You help pay for all of the stuff to keep this thing running. And I want to thank all of you guys for your time and attention. That was nice. I especially want to thank Brian for not just all of that, but also coming on the show. Keeps it interesting.
Yeah. Well, I love the show. I don't always catch it, but when I do, because I can't keep quiet.
It's fine. I like it. It keeps it interesting. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So we'll catch you guys next week, same time. Also, probably Wednesday and on Brian's show. So catch you later. On the flip side.